Hey YouTube, Wyatt Paints here. Mojo is a seldom used X-Men villain that does not get the love he deserves. I'm going to change that today. I'm painting Mojo from C27. I'm going to be using contrast paints for his skin, so I'm going to start this off with pre-highlighting with my little floof makeup brush. Sadly, I got a little bit aggressive and broke off one of his nails, but I think we'll both live. It's important in this step to really push the highlight to the titanium white for the contrast paint to really do its magic. And the paint I use for that is Army Painter Speed Paint Zealot Yellow. I didn't want to slather this on because thick coats of this tends to look a little too orangey, so I did my best to just spread it thin. If you're going to do this, be sure to pay attention as thin coats can make bubbles very easily. And if you don't handle those bubbles, you'll have uneven color. While that dries, I gave some attention to the base. Since his console is going to be silverish, I wanted the ground to contrast with that and have a color that ties in with his skin. So I pulled out my old favorite, good old Cycorex Bronze. Still using little floof, I gradually dry brushed on the metallic. Doing it this way keeps it super thin so I don't lose any of that surface detail. Looking back at Mojo, I used Vallejo Cold Gray for his hair and P3 Menelath White Base for his teeth. After looking at it for a while, I thought his teeth was a little too yellow and it would match his skin and get lost, so I came back later and did a little bit of a glaze of the Menelath highlight, just so they stick out a little bit. Once his hair dried, I hit the mechanical implants on his face and body with Army Painter Shining Silver. This is a bit of detail work that you want to spend a little extra time to not overpaint and mess up your previous work. Since I had the silver out, I might as well paint his tail and the console as well. I wanted this to look scratchy as Mojo comes off as someone that doesn't have good maintenance or hygiene habits, so a roughed up look is fitting for both. So no overthinking it, just slash the paint on. Next, it's time to get his mechanized chair all silvered up. This is where I had the most issue with this model, as there was no real good way of holding it. While I do have model holders for painting, each way I can think of attaching it to it wouldn't really work in the long run, so just using ginger fingers was what I went with. If your hands are clean and free of excess oils, and you pay attention to where you're holding it, you should be fine. I did notice that there was a staining from the speed paint and was a bit hard to cover. Thankfully, the yellow that bleeds through looks more like a reflection off the metal than a painting mistake. Like Bob Ross would say, happy little accident. Next, all the metal surfaces got a shade of Nuln Oil. While this is an all-over wash, you don't want weird pools forming, so make sure you wick any of those away. When it comes to his chair, this really helped the surface details stand out and not get lost under his belly. It made his legs look way more imposing. I shaded the ground with Citadel Seraphim Sepia. I wanted it to look like oil drips and body fluid stains that had tarnished it over the years. I think that works. Looking back at the chair, I put another coat of the Shining Silver over the edges to lessen those yellow reflections, and also to give a little poppy spots on his legs to give it a bit more visual interest. Now, I couldn't just leave these screens blank. I had to give them each a little coat of Vallejo Magic Blue, followed by some very rough wet blending with a highlight in the outside two screens. This console shouldn't be the focal point of the piece as it will sit behind Mojo, so it doesn't need a lot of attention. Now that I was sure the contrast paint on his skin was completely dry, I wanted to even out the tone in some spots, so I mixed up a glaze using P3 Ember Orange. After 2 or 3 coats in some key spots, his skin was looking great. This was also the time I noticed the print lines on his belly. Too late to fix it now. But truth be told, I don't think he was going to win any beauty contests anytime soon. After that, I used my bronze and magic blue again and painted a couple of details on the tail. Finally, a bit of black on his nails and Mojo was done. Personally, I think he looks perfectly grotesque. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, think about hitting that subscribe button, as a new channel really helps me to keep motivated to make new videos. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.